I want to turn now to Patty Olinger, an expert on infectious diseases, executive director of GBAC. That's a division of ISSA, because we have to talk about COVID. Patty, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
I feel like we've talked 3,000 times in the last month. And that's okay, because you're great.
Year and a half.
Yeah, I enjoy talking to you. Look, so this Omicron variant and the common cold, very, very similar, right?
The symptoms are very similar, and that's what I think confuses everybody.
Okay, so what are the symptoms, and how can you tell the difference?
Well, you hear a lot of times about different diseases where it's flu-like symptoms or cold-like symptoms. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Omicron or Delta as well, is that we're seeing symptoms that are similar to things that were commonplace to us in the past, which, like the cold, the runny nose, the sore throats, the, headaches, body aches. We're starting to see that, and that makes it so that it's very difficult for us, just as an individual, to be able to say, oh, I have a cold, or do I have COVID? And so that self-diagnosis part of it really isn't possible unless we go get tested.
Well, this is a reminder that the cold, the flu, still very real, still exist, because when COVID hit, it seemed like everybody thought that, well, that's it. It's COVID or it's nothing. And the flu kind of got kicked to the curb. The cold kind of got kicked to the curb. They are still out there, and they're still affecting people.
Oh, absolutely. I have to admit, a couple of weeks ago, I came down with a cold. I was tested, I think, 5 times. And it was like, it reminds you also that those other viruses are out there. And it's one of those things where it's like you step back and say, how did I get it? And, I think that there for a while, in the very beginning and, through the pandemic, we were really paying close attention to, our social distancing. And this is, before vaccines. And think about those flu numbers that happened. Our flu numbers went way down. We were wearing masks. We were washing our hands. We were not touching our face. And those practices are still important to keep COVID away, as well as the flu and common cold.
Okay, so basically, there's not a lot of difference between the symptoms of Omicron and the common cold. So the only way to tell what you have is to go get tested then.
Absolutely. And, those home tests, are very important. If you're going to go visit, I know several people who, had Christmas parties, with their families, wanted to see grandma again, and everybody tested before they went. And so those behaviors, while we don't like it, do keep some of those more vulnerable populations safe. And that's important, and to remember that.
Talking to Patty Olinger, expert on infectious diseases. All right, Patty, this is where we get to the nitty-gritty, which we always get to, don't we?
Yes, we do.
All right, if grandma's vaccinated, then why do we have to worry about it?
It protects us from serious illness and death, but it doesn't prohibit it or prevent it for individuals who may have underlying conditions. And being older, as we're getting older, those make us more vulnerable. And so if she were to get sick, or if grandpa was to get sick, we don't know what those underlying conditions may be. And so those are the things that, we need to keep in our head.
But grandma and grandpa have already had 2 to 3 vaccinations already. So so I guess this is my question, Patty. We are still trying to control a virus. You cannot control a virus. You know that, and I know that. You've got Omicron, which most people are going to think is the cold or think nothing of. They're asymptomatic, so they're not going to get tested. They're going to go around people. What, are we overreacting again? By all accounts, this Omicron variant is less severe than Delta. It's pretty much a cold. We just agreed on that. Cold-like symptoms. Why are we canceling bowl games for 22-year-old healthy males? Why are we stranding people in airports over something that resembles the common cold? Why are we losing our minds again?
We're still seeing surges in hospitals, in certain hospitals and around the country. And, a lot of them are being attributed to Omicron. We don't know when we first get tested, if it's Omicron or Delta or maybe a different variant. So it's important to be able to control this virus. I agree with you, and you know I do, from a standpoint of we've got to figure out how we're going to live with this, because this virus isn't going to go away. It's going to be with us for a long time. And shutting down businesses and shutting down life is not the way to get a handle of this.
Thank you.
But some of our behaviors are things that we can do to still protect people, as unfortunately we are still learning. And that's the important part of it, is look at your own family situation, your own situation, and know what's important. Is grandma, really, really healthy, or is there things that we need to protect her from? And then, put those behaviors in place, put those actions in place to protect those that we love.
As an expert on infectious diseases, do you believe in natural immunity? Do you believe in herd immunity being achieved through infection?
Absolutely. I think that the thing that we're finding on this one is, what does that really mean? We use these terms a lot, but then being able to step back and say, what does herd immunity really mean for this particular virus? We know what it in theory means, but how does that affect this particular virus when it continues, it seems to change at a fairly high rate? And that's, that will be in the future, textbooks and everything, I have a feeling, because we're really seeing how that natural immunity, whether it's through vaccination or whether it's through being infected and having natural immunity, really plays out here in the future.
Patty, I know you've studied this a lot. You've read a lot. So have I. Do you think 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, people are going to look back and say that the United States of America totally overreacted to COVID?
And I don't think it's just the United States. You got to look at Australia, look at some of these other countries that have really shut down. It'll be a debate. There will be things that we did poorly, and then there are things that we did very well. Getting the vaccine available at a very, fast rate, a safe vaccine, was outstanding for the whole world. Being able to, I actually wrote an article that was published in January 2020 that said that we would have a pandemic someday, and that we weren't prepared. We weren't prepared at the very front lines, at just day-to-day business. Mm-hmm. And that's what, I've been working on, trying to get people up and running again, but being prepared for what might come next, whether it's a new variant or a different virus. We need to do better on that, and that's really important.
All right, Patty, I always enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much.
Well, you have a wonderful, happy New Year.
Same to you, Patty.